Ladies and gentlemen, this morning I am honored to introduce to you our keynote speaker, the Honorable Michael P. Huerta, Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration. Sworn into office on January 7th of 2013 for a 5-year term, Administrator Huerta is responsible for the safety and efficiency of the largest aerospace system in the world. He oversees a $15.9 billion budget and more than 47,000 employees. Administrator Huerta also oversees the FAA's multi-billion-dollar next-gen air traffic control modernization program. The administrator is an experienced transportation official who has held key positions throughout the country. His reputation for managing complex transportation challenges led him to the international stage when he was tapped as a managing director for the 2002 Winter Olympic Games. Prior to joining the FAA, the administrator held senior positions at Affiliated Computer Services from 2002 to 2009, rising to the position of president of the Transportation Solutions Group. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming FAA Administrator Michael Huerta.
Well, thank you, Paula, for that introduction, and it's great to be here in Orlando. Let me also offer my personal congratulations to Jeannie, to Gogo, and to Robert for your significant achievements in this wonderful industry. The work that you do, the work that everyone is doing in this industry is contributing to the kinds of innovations that are taking aviation to incredible new heights, and maybe even revolutionizing it altogether. In doing so, you're helping us to go beyond our limits, which is the very idea that's expressed in your conference theme, New Horizons Await. Last week, I was attending the World Aviation Training Symposium, which was also held here in Orlando. And in my speech to that group, I talked about the old Link trainer, which, as you all know, is an early generation flight simulator developed way back in the 1930s. These things were kind of like soapbox derby racers. Some describe them as a trash can with stubby wings, a door, and a control stick. And what we talked about last week was that simulators have come a long way since then. And as you well know, so have aircraft electronics. We all remember the old radios that were so heavy and complicated that they needed a third person in the cockpit to work those things. And who would have thought back then that radios would now be as light as a few pounds, or that they would be touchscreen? Now, for the most part, the airplane itself is the same as when the Wright brothers first flew over 100 years ago. It has wings, it has a propulsion system, and a method to control it. But the advances have been with the onboard instruments that augment the pilot's ability, things like TCAS, enhanced ground proximity warnings, Mode S transponders, and of course now ADSB. Thanks to advances like these and others in the electronics industry, airplanes are some of the most connected, some of the most information-driven pieces of equipment that we have on the planet. A pilot today can have as much and maybe even more situational awareness as the air traffic controller on the ground. We would like to see the industry equipped with ADSB out as soon as possible. And let me be clear that the deadline for the mandate is set at January 1st, 2020. It's not going to change, and that's only 44 months away. The air carriers have all committed to being equipped on time, and we expect that the general aviation community will be as well. Now, we know it's human nature. We all want to wait until we absolutely need to do something. There's a sense that if owners wait longer to equip, that they'll get better deals. Or maybe the owners still have a lot of questions about what kind of products they need. But on the flip side, if they don't get their appointments scheduled, they may not get their installations done in time, and then they may be grounded. We're also concerned that you'll end up with too much demand and not enough time to get the installations done if everyone waits to the last minute. So we encourage you to be creative marketers, and a great example of that is Custom Avionics in Bartow, Florida. In December, they launched a new campaign called Early Register, where they guarantee ADSB installations before the 2020 deadline. They'll assign the customer a position, and they will guarantee their spot in line. If owners register now, they lock in the price, and even if costs go up as we approach the deadline. Through Early Register, owners can also pre-order equipment and pay for it over time, much like a layaway plan. Now, Custom Avionics is just one good example of marketing creativity, and I'm sure that there are many, many other good ones that are out there. We know that the prices of equipment have fallen considerably, and some units can be found for as low as $1,500. But we, like you, are finding that a lot of GA pilots are willing to pay more for a better product, and it's not just about being compliant. There's value in getting things that make flying more fun and more safe, things like ADSB in. So while it's important for your customers to get their installation scheduled, it's also very important that the installations be properly configured. We have been seeing issues where people are getting their installations, but if it's not configured correctly, it shows up in the system as a potential problem. Now, as of mid-April, we have had close to 10,000 good installations and about 1,900 bad installations. Now, some of these bad ones indicate that they intended to be compliant installations, but something is wrong with the transmitted data. The good news is that 1,900 seems to be holding constant, and so what that indicates is the problem isn't getting worse. We've made it easier for repair stations and pilots to check if their installation is correct. They can go to the FAA website and click on the Equip ADSB link that's right there on the home page. Now, just as ADSB is enabling us to see new horizons, so are new users in our national airspace system, and obviously, we're all talking about the proliferation of unmanned aircraft. Over the last several months, the FAA has worked to reach a new and different generation of aviators in venues that are new and different to us as well. In early March, I had the opportunity to attend with members of our team the South by Southwest conference in Austin, Texas. Now, who would have thought that? During one panel, a man in the audience stood up and addressed a representative of one of the major drone manufacturers. He said that he had bought one of their early generation drones, but it was already obsolete. And he asked, could I get a retrofit? And what he hinted at, and this was quite interesting, was that for the benefit of consumers, they should consider slowing down innovation. Now, the manufacturer thanked the man for being an early adopter, but he assured him that his company intended to keep on innovating, making drones that are even lighter and more capable. It kind of reminded me of Moore's Law from the 1960s. You might remember this. The rule of thumb that computer memory doubles about every 2 years, and that's when you come out with a new product. Well, with unmanned aircraft, they are thinking that the product life cycle is not 2 years. It's 4 to 6 months. That's how fast things are changing. In fact, we expect there to be as many as 7 million drones that will be sold by 2020. We're seeing it on the Unmanned Aircraft Registry, which we launched in December. As of now, we already have more than 430,000 registered drone users in the United States. By comparison, we have 320,000 aircraft on the aircraft registry, and it took us nearly 100 years to get there. Now, we know that electronic components are becoming more miniaturized to fit into these drones. Developers are coming up with algorithms and sensors that enable drones to fly in formation. If they encounter trees, they can split and fly around the trees. Some can even count the peaches on the tree. And everything is happening so quickly, and we're only beginning to see the ingenious uses of new and miniaturized technologies that are developed for these small aircraft. And we look forward to seeing how these innovations might be applicable to traditional aircraft. And it certainly is interesting to be a part of it. Now, your companies have been at the forefront when it comes to turning electronics into life-saving and life-changing tools. You're constantly looking for that next horizon. And in this business, I think we all need to be paying attention to what's happening with unmanned aircraft. There's no doubt that industry is moving at the speed of imagination. And at the FAA, we can't afford to move at the old speed of government. We have to be willing to innovate along the way, and we need to innovate in the way that we do our work and who we are. For instance, we took steps to streamline the process of issuing exemptions for non-hobby unmanned aircraft operations. We recently raised the blanket altitude authorization for exemption holders and government operators from 200 feet to 400 feet. This is another milestone in our effort to change the traditional speed at which we've worked on these things. We're also working to be more flexible in our rules by reviewing our small airplane certification standards. And based on months of collaboration with manufacturers and others in the industry, we released our proposed rule to rewrite Part 23 in March. And it is our goal to finalize that rule, if we can, by the end of this year. Now, instead of requiring certain design elements on specific technologies, the new Part 23 rule will enable manufacturers to develop aircraft and safety technologies according to performance-based standards that maintain the same level of safety. Now, this approach recognizes that there's more than one way to deliver on safety, and it provides room for flexibility and innovation in the marketplace. I expect that this will reduce the time it takes to get safety-enhancing technologies for small airplanes into the marketplace while also reducing their cost. They might not be required by rule, but these tools will still provide a number of valuable safety benefits, and we want to make sure that you can easily take advantage of what they are. Our Part 23 rewrite will overhaul how we certify aircraft in the future, but we also recognize that it's important in terms of how it's applied in modernizing the existing general aviation fleet. In 2014, as many of you know, we developed a streamlined process for installing angle of attack indicator systems. Last year, we clarified the process for installing electronic attitude indicators. We're now building on this progress with a new policy that will make it easier to install other non-required but safety-enhancing equipment into general aviation aircraft. We think this approach will help us drive down the GA fatality rate. We're starting to see it move some, but as many of us know, this has been stubbornly flat for a number of years. We want to see the kind of improvement in the fatality rate that we've had in commercial passenger aviation. In that segment, we reduced the fatal accident risk rate by 83% from 1998 to 2008, and we're aiming to reduce it by another 50% by 2025. Much of that reduction has come from designing planes that are stronger, but also smarter. We now collect a wealth of safety data and exchange safety data with the industry so that we can identify potential hazards and address them before they can give rise to an accident or an incident. I want to achieve similar results in the general aviation segment. As administrator, I have to say that one of the fun things of the job is the chance to become a student of aviation history. The walls of the corridor outside my office are lined with a lot of photographs, many of them in black and white. and they capture moments in time, critical historic moments in aviation. Many of these are of aviation heroes and heroines, the people that you might expect to see, but a great number of them are of airplanes from a bygone era. As you look at them, it's hard to imagine that only a few short decades ago, the passengers would climb aboard a Ford tri-motor aircraft with coagulated aluminum skin. You would sit in wicker seats, sometimes quite a bit wider than the ones we sit in today. And you would reach staggeringly high altitudes, 10,000 feet. At night, passengers would look out the window and they would actually see tongues of blue flame escaping from unmuffled exhausts. Well, fast forward to today. Our newest jetliners are made of materials these pioneers would never have imagined. And as we all know, they fly above the weather at altitudes that are so high that details of the countryside can't be seen at all. They fade away to colors, hues of brown and blue and green. I recently was in Wichita, and I visited Spirit Aerosystems facility there, where sections of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner were being built by giant robots. They were applying carbon composite tape to a rotating jig. Now, who would have thought there would be an aircraft factory where an important sound so characteristic of our industry was completely absent? There was no sound of riveting. Similar advances have been made in the world of avionics, and the changes we're seeing are awe-inspiring. At the FAA, we're committed to supporting those innovations, to supporting you, while ensuring that all of our safety needs are met. And as your conference theme proclaims, we're well aware that new horizons await, and I look forward to helping you get there and to seeing how these changes will continue to transform modern aviation. Thank you for all that you do. Have a great conference.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the 59th Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Orlando, Florida, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
A new high-powered version of our popular USB charging ports. The TrueBlue Power TA202 series high-power USB charging port simultaneously provides 3 amps of power per port, offering an extensive list of single and dual USB Type-C and Type-A configurations. The TSO-certified TA202 powers current and next-generation personal electronic devices, including phones, iPads, and laptops. Available from your local avionics dealer.